All right, well, welcome on into the Bob Sullivan Show here on Late Night Sports Radio. Feel free to call in. The number here is 585-633-7487. And yet again, Bob Sullivan is allowing me to hijack the show. And my name is John Malores, Jr. I'm with WindyCityStars.com. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff, at Malores, Malioris. And where can we find you, Bob?
You can find me at Bob Sullivan Show on LateNightSportsRadio.com, and I'm glad I can be a guest on the show tonight, Johnny.
That's all you got? You don't tweet? You don't do any of that fun stuff? I know I saw you on Twitter for a short while.
Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at Bob Sullivan Show. Check out my blog at bobsullivanshow.blogspot.com. And you can find all the most recent shows of this era of the Bob Sullivan Show on there.
See, man, you're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
See, my favorite is Instagram, man. I'm constantly, I'll go through that constantly. So I'll go through and like maybe once a month, I'll load all of my Instagram photos. I'll just go through my phone real quick, just upload all the good pictures, and then back in another month.
Yeah, I don't have many safe for work pictures on that I can post to Instagram. And
yeah, I can only imagine.
I would tell everybody to find me on Google Plus, but nobody uses Google Plus, so
What is Google Plus?
It's like Facebook. It's attempted to be Facebook, I think. I don't know. It's no one uses it.
Pretty sure it's like a failure to me.
Yeah, I've tried to be friends with people on there. Nobody wants to be my friend, and it's sad.
At least it's kind of similar to real life.
Yeah, it's too real to real life.
Well, how about real life, man? I mean, pretty much, I think a couple of days ago, everybody in Chicago woke up thinking they were dreaming when they found out that the White Sox had picked up Jeff Samardzija. Then, they went through and, made a big move to pick up David Robertson. And then the next morning, everybody wakes up in Chicago, and me, I was still up at the time, but then they wake up to find out, John Lester's coming to the Cubbies, and pick up Miguel Montero. I mean, what a great deal for Chicago fans right now.
Yeah, White Sox, the Samardzija deal, that's a pretty big deal, but and David Robertson, but they've struggled the last couple of years. I can't really say that it was all pitching or all closing or anything, but I feel like they have more issues that they need to get worked out. And the Cubs, it sounds like they're going to go after Max Scherzer as well, and if they can get him to team up with Lester, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch to have for the Cubs, and it's just a matter of time on waiting on the injuries to pile up and cost the Cubs another chance to World Series.
Waiting for Tommy John to take its turn, man. That pretty much seemed to be a huge epidemic this year with everybody going down with the Tommy John. But I mean, both of these guys, pretty relatively healthy histories, at least in Lester and Scherzer. But when it comes down to the White Sox, picking up Jeff Samardzija really gives them a formidable 1-2-3 punch, especially in the Central Division there. I mean, honestly, the only team that really might match up is obviously Detroit with Price and Anibal Sanchez and Verlander. But them losing Scherzer, that's going to hurt a little bit. But when you look at it, I mean, the White Sox, now having looking back at last year's WAR statistics, they have now technically the number 8, the number 9, and the number 15 top pitchers in WAR in all of Major League Baseball with those three guys between Quintana, Samardzija, and Sale. So we'll really see, man. That's a big thing for them. I mean, they still have some other glaring holes, obviously, pitching, in terms of the late innings of the game. That was an issue for them. So, I can't necessarily justify spending anything more than $10 million on a closer, but, it was something they needed to fix. They went through, picked up, Zach Duke, and, made a couple other moves, kind of, bolstered that bullpen a little bit. Picked up Adam LaRoche, so now you got another, big lefty bat in the middle of the lineup. Hopefully it hasn't turned into a done deal, but I saw, I thought it was kind of in poor taste, too. Comcast is owned partially by the White Sox, by the Cubs, by the Blackhawks, and the Bulls. And their tweet to, when he woke up, the morning after all the big moves, was all in. And I think we all remember that whole campaign, the all in with the Adam Dunn signing, and just how horrible everything was that year. So, I would think somebody within the organization was like, hey man, come on, don't go and put us into that again,
Yeah, I'm a little interested to see. Well, the David Robertson, who was the last closer to get this type of money? Has any?
I think about Papelbon. Papelbon was one of those guys.
Yeah. I mean, is I didn't hear, but what was this the biggest closer deal in history? I mean, I guess Papelbon might be close.
Papelbon ended up making more money on it. Yeah, Papelbon ended up making more money on it, but I think what it really comes down to was, they figured that was, even though they are overpaying, it is a big need of theirs. I mean, Rick Hahn has done a terrific job in terms of freeing up the money, and getting everything in place so he was allowed to do this. And he does still have some other glaring holes that he needs to address. Like, for instance, third base, if he wants to upgrade there, they're definitely going to have to figure out what they're going to do with Dion Viciedo, because you can't necessarily have him go out there playing, left or right field for you with the quality of defense that he provided. And so I know Seattle's always been a big bidder on him, but, when you look at that, like I said, it has to do with what they're going to do with Viciedo, what they're going to do with third base, and what they're going to do with second. Right now, they have Micah Johnson, who might be able to play second base, maybe, Carlos Sanchez. So there's a few different names out there, maybe Yuri Garcia. That might be able to kind of hold it over, relatively well, but they do need to make an upgrade significantly in one of those other positions. And I think one of the guys that's kind of an interesting name, and could wind up in a variety of places in basically a pretty premium position at third base there, is Chase Heatley. I like to see where he ends up. I ended up finishing the season with the Yankees, was a pretty good fit with them. So I'm not sure how they're looking to approach that with having A-Rod now. But, in terms of how he would fit with the White Sox, I think that'd be a great fit for him. And, considering how aggressive they've been, it really wouldn't surprise me all that much.
Yeah, third base is probably an issue. Do you think... I kind of feel like manager could be an issue. I think, Ventura's fine, but I'm not, 100% sold on him. I wouldn't mind seeing an Ozzie Guillen comeback.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be the only one. There's quite a few people that just aren't really all that enamored with, his personality. He's a pretty dry guy. And, growing up, in Chicago, especially, watching him, all those years playing third base, always been a really big fan. I've spoken with him several times. Always really, really nice guy. And his sense of humor is more dry, but, he's got like that baseball sense of humor where if you don't understand baseball, he's probably not going to be all that funny to you. And, you don't see him get fired up. There's not really a ton of emotion that, that really comes out of him. So I think, between that and some of the in-game managerial strategic, gas that he's had, that kind of puts him in a bad light. And, I was just looking to make a comeback. He was saying he was willing to push the Cubs, so I mean, that's got to be pretty bad when he's talking about all the rats. But I think even he knows, man, things are happening over there.
Yeah, the Ozzie Guillen, that's not going to happen. There's no way he comes back to Chicago. Now with him and Kenny Williams.
And Kenny might be on his way out now, too. I don't know if you heard about that, but there was a report about how the White Sox didn't allow, Jerry Reinsdorf in particular, did not allow him to speak with the Toronto Blue Jays about a CEO job, a president's job. And so what had happened is Jerry had found out after they called and inquired about, being able to speak with Kenny, was that, they were firing the guy that was still in that position, who just so happened to be a very good friend of Jerry's. And so, he denied the access to speak with Kenny Williams, and ended up going and telling, his buddy that, hey, you know what, they're looking to replace you right now. And so, that's one of those things where it kind of gets caught up, one like a major corporation, owns one of these major league teams, one of these professional teams. Sometimes, little minute, details like that tend to get ignored, and then it blows up in your face.
Yeah. Are we? I'm curious. Actually, not with the White Sox, but with the Cubs. Is what they're going to do with Wellington Castillo, because it's been with him. They looked at Russell Martin. Now they brought in this new catcher.
Miguel Montero.
Miguel Montero. I'm not sure what is going to happen with Wellington Castillo. I think it's interesting.
Well, I mean, he definitely is, pretty good trade bait, at least in terms of, a lot of teams do like what he brings to the table. He's not really the best game caller. That was something why I think Theo and Jed went out there and made the move for Montero, because if you look at obviously there's all these proprietary statistics out there, one of which happens to be game calling and pitch framing. And that was something where Miguel was through the roof. He basically led the major leagues. It was something around a 15.0. And when you look at Wellington Castillo's numbers, it was about a negative 11. And so obviously it's a significant boost in that department. And so, knowing that you don't have robots out there like you've suggested in the past, calling these ball games, you do need a guy that's out there to kind of shave the corners a little bit and kind of make the pitches look a little bit tighter than they really are, just to kind of give yourself the edge. And I think that was probably one of the deciding factors, in particular for John Lester, knowing that, hey, you know what? They went out there, they got one of the best catchers in the game, former All-Star, a guy where, all it's going to take is another, a couple weeks of a season, to kind of figure it out and get back on track. Because, like I said, he was an All-Star before, got injured, and kind of struggled on his way back up. But, I think he'll be able to hone in and kind of get his average back under control. So he can offer some pop. And honestly, he's probably a pretty good six-hitter.
Yeah. Well, and then you got all these guys that strike out all the time. I mean, all these these rookies and small guys that, are these young guys that are coming up. There's a lot of strikeouts there.
Oh, yeah. There's growing pains.
Do you think they try to flip any of these prospects for a, big-time player, or do you think they just stick with what they got?
Oh, absolutely. And that's probably one of the most difficult things about, running an organization like this is kind of realizing, especially when you're in a position that the Cubs are in, where you have a significant number of offensive prospects, a lot of which carry a lot of power. And that's something a lot of teams right now are looking to pick up, because, I mean, if you look at the wave of that pitching has taken over the last several years here, pitching has become dominant. And so if you only have pitching, you're going to have a very hard time just making the playoffs, let alone win the World Series. And so, the guys that actually are able to hit and have that power, that raw power, like I said, those are a hot commodity. And so it's basically at this point figuring out which one of the handful of prospects that you have, that you can manage to live without. A big part of that is, building up the reputation for that given player and kind of spreading the word and kind of building that hype. And then going out there and dealing with them. Because when you think about it, you consider yourself lucky as an organization, where you have 10 top prospects, okay? And if out of those 10 prospects, if you have 3 of them that actually work for you, 1 All-Star, 1 everyday player, and 1 bench player, and that's pretty much, the most you could ever expect out of your top 10 prospects at any given moment. So, like I said, it's all about figuring out which one of those guys aren't going to work out, and that was something that Atlanta was really good at for a long time. And that maybe has fallen by the wayside a little bit as that whole thing kind of turns itself inside out. But, looking at it, I do absolutely see them trying to go out there and, making a move, trying to go out there and possibly adding another starting pitcher or just something with these starters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely interesting on the Chicago side. Yeah,
we got to talk about the Dodgers, right? I mean, the Dodgers stole a little bit. They took last night.
Can we talk about LA for God's sakes?
Yeah, well, hey, you're the one talking about all the Chicago teams. I mean, I know it was very impressive, but there are other teams, Bob.
I know. I was just sticking with what the host was talking about, and you love your White Sox.
Yeah, I'll drive this show any which way I want.
You please do.
Oh, okay. Well, how about this, man? How about Howie Kendrick coming over to the Dodgers from LA? Moving, after going out and acquiring you know, the top prospect for Miami, Heine.